Next speaker is Albert Caput from, I'm going to read it up, University of South Alabama. Please.
Thank you. I come with greetings from Mobile, down on the Gulf Coast, way down in South Alabama. And I am here thanks to the generosity and encouragement of my friends at the National High Magnetic Field Lab. And this doesn't work. How about this? V3SI is the dinosaur that won't go extinct. It's been studied since the 60s, and it's not yet done. There's still a lot of interest, believe it or not, even with the nature of the band gap itself, still under debate whether it's a multi or a single still. And so that's our main interest here. Our contribution is, number one, pulsed NMR with phase-sensitive detection. Number two, a really awesome sample, single crystal sample. And what we're going to show you today are T1 measurements in the 111 direction down to millikelvin temperatures. We believe this is very new. And what we're going to see, spoiler alert, is that we're going to see Coringa-like behavior of 1 over T1 at lowest temperatures and field dependent, kind of like what the previous speaker was describing. But in our case, we believe it's field-induced thermal broadening of the gap. Yes, due to vortices. Just like niobium tin, we have an A15 superconductor, but instead of niobium chains, we have vanadium chains in orthogonal directions. It's a nice orthogonal mesh of chains. TC of 17 Kelvin. A very durable intermetallic alloy. It's been around since 1983 and has yielded many studies over the years for different groups, including our latest work on studying the martensitic transformation using NMR, as described in our recent paper. Building on that success, we went on to T1 measurement to probe the electronic density of states, the gap structure. And the only note I will add for NMR is, as described previously, the nuclei have also a quadrupole moment that interacts with the field gradient of its chains. And instead of the 9 lines that you see with niobium, for vanadium-51 you have 7. And I'd like to add that the spacing is very sensitive to the orientation of this crystal. And of great interest to us is when you align H with the 111 direction, you get a spacing of 0. All the lines collapse into 1. And you'll see why we're interested in that. T1 is of interest because it is a very good probe of the density of states over all these energies, including the Fermi energy and the gap in that vicinity via this integral. And so that's what makes 1 over T1 interesting, but that's not how you measure it. You measure it by watching the rate at which any one spectral line evolves with time after an initial saturation pulse. And what you would expect from a single line is that you would have an exponential decay factor right here, which gives a nice fit, and there is where you get your 1 over T1 from. In reality, this is not always easy to do. In reality, lines interact and infect each other, and the fit is not as straightforward. And in fact, when you go down to lower temperatures, which was our goal, the lines, get broader and they overlap, and it's just a mess. And So we hit on the solution of, we have a single crystal. We just align the crystal, so as previously mentioned, so that the field is along 111. And we do that thanks to a lovely 3D printed, custom-made sample holder. There's a sample in there, together with the two-axis goniometer. And there you go. There's the collapse. We have one line. And you guessed it, when we saturated that puppy, we got that. So we get a nice, reliable measurement of T1 even at low temperatures. Yay. Okay. So what did we get when we measure down to 100 millikelvin, thanks to the facility at SEM1 in MagLab? Here's our first set of data in red, and we have also included two other previous studies that have done something like this up to, just above 1 Kelvin. For Silbernagle, we're in agreement that above TC you have your Coringa behavior and field independent. Silbernagle found that below TC you have field dependent, as you can see here. The 1995 Kishimoto study didn't find any field dependence. So clearly, we got to turn on some fields to see what happens. And here's the rest of our data. And from 4 Tesla to 15 Tesla, again, above TC, field independent. Below TC, field dependent. And Coringa, did you see that? So we have the same kind of linear to temperature behavior that you would normally associate with the normal state. But we're in the superconducting state. So what's going on here? What makes you think of normal state in the superconducting phase? Vortices. Okay, we got to think about vortices here. And there's two possibilities. Either the vortices are disrupting the natural relaxation of the nuclei themselves, or the superconducting electronic structure itself is being modified by the vortices. We believe it's the latter. So we come up with a model that thinks about that. And when we apply that model, lo and behold, we get a really good fit to our data, including that linear behavior at lowest temperatures. We even fit the Silbernagle data. So, bet you want to know what this model is. It's nothing really new. Dines, this is something a lot of groups have done. Dines came up with the idea of, starting with the BCS density of states. You have this additional a parameter called gamma, and that is a measure of the broadening of the quasi-particle lifetimes as you introduce some kind of pair breaking mechanism. So you got Cooper pairs pairing and unpairing at the edge of the gap. And when we use this form with gamma as a free parameter, well, delta is kind of free, but it's still constrained by the TC of our data. Guess what happens? It just pops right out that gamma is monotonic with field, which is consistent with the idea that the lifetime is, in fact, broadening as you increase the field. So we are, in fact, messing with the electronic structure itself, and that smears out your density of states in a pattern that's familiar to people in tunneling who do tunneling experiments. And so we have some good confidence in that, especially when we saw a paper that came out just a few months ago by Ding and others, in which they saw this same smearing into the gap. And not only that, our numbers are very consistent with their numbers in terms of the extent of the smearing and at what fields it happens. It matches what they got very, very well. And so we have a high confidence that's in fact what we're seeing here. So in conclusion, we have found we have studied the field dependence of relaxation rate well into the lowest temperatures, and have found that the density of states itself is being smeared out by quasi-particle lifetime broadening. So yeah, the vortices are messing with the gap, with the density of states, and this is in fact the first time, it's not the first time it was observed, but it's the first time observed using NMR. And for that, that's pretty exciting stuff. Thank you very much.
So we have time for a couple questions. Yes?
So there's two plots at the previous slide. Could you go up a little bit? The foremost one.
Oh, before that?
Before, yeah. So I saw this is two gap versus the magnetic field. So what are those two plots?
Oh, here?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, oh, I'm sorry, you can't see that delta naught over TC. And that's delta naught, oh, wait a minute. No, that would have to be delta prime, I think.
So is there a jump at about 6 Tesla?
It's kind of a leveling off. That's what we think it is. Other than that, not sure. Well, we believe it might have something to do with this strong coupling. Yeah.
I see.
Hi.
Thanks for your talk.
Thank you.
I was wondering, did you also measure T1 selectively at individual peaks as well?
Yeah, we tried that. That's part of the reason we just decided, okay, let's just knock them into one, because it was not easy. Yes,
All right,
we
thanks.
did.
All right, let's thank the speaker again.
Thank you.